They killed our bonuses the same afternoon the Department of Defense signed the largest contract in company history. I'm not talking about a modest shortfall. I'm not talking about a scaled-back payout or a delayed distribution. I mean, our COO stood in the middle of our team celebration, still warm coffee in people's hands. The good stuff from the catering order my assistant had placed that morning, and told 47 engineers, analysts, and support staff that their performance bonuses for the year had been reallocated to a company-wide talent transformation initiative. He said it with the kind of calm that people mistake for confidence. I've learned to recognize it as something else entirely. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 54, and I've been the Senior Director of Engineering Operations at this company for 16 years. I came up through the technical side, started as a systems integration analyst straight out of the Army. Spent the first 4 years with a security clearance badge clipped to my chest and circuit diagrams in my head. I've watched this company grow from a 70-person defense contractor, operating out of 2 floors in a Tyson's Corner office park, to a 430-person operation with federal clients on 3 coasts. I didn't just watch it grow. I helped build the framework it grew on. The contract that triggered all of this was called Project Meridian. It was a Department of Defense Systems Integration initiative worth $23 million over 3 years, with options to extend to $41 million if Phase 1 delivery met their benchmarks. Our team had spent 14 months on the proposal alone. I personally flew to 5 different bases to understand the operational requirements. My lead systems architect rebuilt our core methodology documentation from scratch to meet DoD security specifications. My senior analyst ran a parallel quality review process on nights and weekends, completely voluntarily, because she cared about the outcome. When the award notification came through, the building actually erupted. People were hugging in the hallways. Someone hung a hand-lettered sign in the break room that said, "Meridian Team, we did it." That was a Tuesday. The catering arrived Thursday morning. My COO arrived at 11:45 a.m. He walked in wearing that particular expression he always wore when he was about to reframe something bad as something visionary. He had a way of tilting his head slightly to the left before delivering difficult news, like he was listening to some internal frequency the rest of us couldn't access. He clapped once, got the room's attention, and said he wanted to share something important before the celebration got too far along. What he shared was this: the bonus pool that had been allocated based on our Q4 performance targets was being redirected. The company needed to invest in next-generation talent infrastructure. Building culture wasn't free. The bonus situation was disappointing, he acknowledged, but high performers didn't need financial incentives to continue performing at a high level. They were intrinsically motivated. He actually said that, intrinsically motivated, to 47 people who had just delivered a $23 million federal contract. Nobody moved. My senior architect, who had not taken a single vacation day in 14 months, set her coffee cup down on the catering table so carefully it didn't make a sound. My lead analyst, whose name should have been on the press release but wasn't, just stared at the middle distance. The junior members of the team, the ones still paying off student loans, the ones who had stayed late every Thursday for a year, looked at each other with expressions I recognized from my Army days. The look you get when command has made a decision that defies all available logic, and you're deciding in real time whether to say something. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just looked at my COO, my boss's college roommate, the man who had been installed as Chief Operating Officer 11 months ago, after spending the previous decade running a hospitality consulting group that helped hotel chains optimize their minibar pricing, and I smiled. Small. Just enough. Because I had been carrying something in my briefcase for 3 weeks. A document I'd pulled from my personal files after the rumors about the bonus pool had first started circulating. A document I'd had reviewed by an outside counsel at my own expense, just to be certain. I said, simply, "Conference room, 30 minutes. He looked at me with the practiced patience of someone who assumed this was going to be a conversation about morale metrics or retention risk. "Bring the contract," I added, "the Master Services Agreement, the original one, from 2009. He didn't understand why. He wouldn't. Not yet. I need to take you back 11 months to explain how we got here, because none of what happened makes sense without understanding what came before it. When my CEO announced he was stepping back from daily operations due to a cardiac event, nothing life-threatening, but serious enough that his doctors had used the word mandatory in front of the word rest, he also announced who would be running the company day to day while he recovered. I remember the all-hands meeting clearly. I remember the way he said his roommate's name with a kind of nostalgic warmth. like he was introducing someone at a reunion, rather than handing over the operational reins of a federal defense contractor to someone who had spent his career negotiating linen contracts and lobby redesigns. He wants to observe, my CEO said. Learn the business. Get a feel for how we operate. Observe. Right. My COO walked through our doors the following Monday with a 40-slide onboarding presentation he had apparently prepared himself, which opened with a quote he attributed to Sun Tzu that I later confirmed was from a LinkedIn influencer who sold leadership coaching packages. He introduced himself at the all hands by saying he was a systems thinker with a passion for human-centered operational excellence. He asked everyone to share one word that described how they felt about the company's future, then wrote the words on a whiteboard and took a photograph of it for the company Slack. His first conversation with me was at 7:15 inches the morning, while I was reviewing Meridian's Phase 1 milestone schedule. He leaned against my doorframe and asked whether I thought our team was too siloed. I told him I thought our team was appropriately structured for classified technical work. He nodded slowly, the way people do when they're not really listening. He said he'd been reading about agile transformation and wondered whether a flatter hierarchy might unlock latent innovation energy on the technical floor. I asked him what he meant by latent innovation energy. He said he'd send me some articles. He never sent the articles. What he sent instead, 2 weeks later, was a calendar invite for something called a Culture and Performance Realignment Workshop, mandatory for all senior directors. The workshop was facilitated by his former colleague from the hospitality group, a woman whose professional bio described her as an organizational vitality architect. She had never worked in the defense sector. She began the session by asking us to close our eyes and visualize our ideal team experience. My senior architect opened her eyes and looked at me. I kept mine closed, because I was doing the math on how far we were from the Meridian proposal deadline and how many of these sessions I could survive before something critical slipped. Over the following months, my COO restructured 3 departments without consulting anyone who actually worked in them. He brought in 2 more consultants, one to conduct an employee listening tour, one to develop a purpose-driven performance framework, which appeared to mean replacing our clear bonus criteria with something called a contribution constellation. He eliminated our weekly operational status meeting in favor of something called a flow check-in, which was 15 minutes long and did not allow slides. He also started attending our client meetings, just to get a feel for the relationships, he said. I watched him explain our methodology to a room full of government program managers with the confidence of someone who had read one summary document the night before. I watched the program manager's expressions cycle through polite interest, subtle confusion, and quiet professional dread as he described our engineering framework as a kind of creative ecosystem. One of them asked a specific question about our data integration architecture. He said he'd have his team circle back on that. I answered the question myself. He repeated my answer in slightly different words, and the program manager thanked him. That happened 3 times over the course of the project. Each time, I answered. Each time, he paraphrased. Each time, his name appeared in the follow-up email summary. When the award notification arrived for Project Meridian, the company-wide announcement email was sent from his address. The subject line was, "A historic win, our vision realized." The email described his strategic leadership and client relationship philosophy as central to the outcome. My team was mentioned in a single sentence near the bottom, grouped with the broader organization in a collective acknowledgement of support. I printed that email, folded it in thirds, put it in the same file folder as the document I'd been carrying for 3 weeks. Those 2 items, together, were about to end 11 months of this. Let me tell you about that document. When I joined this company 16 years ago, my employment agreement was relatively standard. Base salary, benefits, non-disclosure provisions, the usual. But I had negotiated one additional clause my attorney at the time had pushed for it, and the company's founder, who was also my CEO, had agreed without much deliberation because he didn't think it would ever matter. The clause was in Section 9, subsection D, tucked into the intellectual property provisions. It stated that for any proprietary systems integration methodology developed under my direct technical leadership during my employment that subsequently generated contract revenue exceeding $5 million in a single federal award, I would retain co-inventor status and would be entitled to a formal technical attribution acknowledgement, including approval rights over how that methodology was represented in future federal proposals and marketing materials. Nobody thought we'd ever hit $5 million in a single award on any one methodology. When I signed that agreement, Our largest contract was a $2.3 million network security project for a mid-level agency. The $5 million threshold felt theoretical, the kind of clause that lawyers put in and clients agree to because it seems harmless. Project Meridian was built on a systems integration framework I had spent 3 years developing. It was proprietary, it was ours, and the award was $23 million. The methodology I'd built was specifically cited in the DoD's award justification as a primary technical differentiator, which meant the clause wasn't theoretical anymore. It was active, and my COO had just stood in front of my team and canceled their bonuses while his name sat at the top of the email that took credit for their work. I had given him 30 minutes. I used 20 of them to make 2 phone calls and send 1 email. The first call was to our general counsel, a quiet, precise woman who had been with the company for 9 years and who had survived every organizational restructuring because she knew where everything was buried. When I read her Section 9, subsection D, she went silent for several seconds. Then she asked me to repeat the specific threshold language. I did. Another silence. She said, "Marcus, do you understand what this means in the context of Meridian?" I told her I did. She said she would need 45 minutes to pull the original filing and cross-reference the award documentation. I told her I only needed confirmation on the co-inventor status and the approval rights. She said she'd call me back in 20. The second call was to my original employment attorney, now semi-retired and living in Charlottesville. He laughed when I reminded him about the clause. He said he'd always told me that provision was a sleeper, the kind of thing that looks decorative until it isn't. He confirmed the enforceability logic hadn't changed and that co-inventor status on a cited methodology in a federal award was not a gray area. The email I sent went to our CEO directly. 3 sentences, no preamble. I told him the clause had been triggered, that I was meeting with his roommate in 10 minutes, and that I thought he should be on the call. He responded in 4 minutes. He said he'd dial in. When my COO walked into the conference room, he had the casual posture of someone who expected a complaint about morale management that he could redirect with empathy language. He set his leather portfolio on the table, uncapped a pen, and gave me the look, the head tilt, the manufactured patience. I set a folder in the center of the table without sitting down. I told him to open it. He looked at it the way you look at something when you suspect it's bad news, but you haven't decided how bad yet. He opened it. The first page was the highlighted employment agreement, Section 9, marked in yellow. The second page was the DoD award documentation, with the methodology citation marked in the same yellow. The third page was our general counsel's preliminary 1-paragraph confirmation, time-stamped 43 minutes prior, that the clause appeared valid and enforceable, pending full review. He read, slowly. His pen stopped moving against his palm. The head tilt disappeared. "I don't think this is what it looks like," he said. His voice had lost the warmth he usually projected. "This is just standard IP boilerplate. These clauses don't typically..." "It's not boilerplate. It's a co-inventor provision triggered by federal award revenue," I said, "and we just received 23 million of it. The methodology your email described as the result of your strategic vision is the methodology this clause covers. I helped build this company for 16 years. My team delivered this contract, and 47 people are going home today without the bonuses they earned because of work they did." He shifted in his chair. He started to say something about chain of command. The video window on the conference room screen lit up. My CEO's face appeared. He still looked tired from the health situation, but his eyes were the same eyes I'd known for 16 years, sharp, direct, carrying the particular weight of someone who built something real and was watching a piece of it go sideways. "I understand we're discussing Section 9D, he said. His voice was even. He looked at his roommate for a moment without expression. Then he looked at me. "Walk me through what you're requesting," I told him clearly. 3 things. First, the bonus pool for Project Meridian's core team to be reinstated in full, distributed within 30 days, using the original performance criteria. All 47 people. Not just the senior staff. Everyone. Second, formal co-inventor attribution on the Meridian methodology in all future federal proposals and marketing materials, per the clause language. Third, operational authority over the technical delivery teams restored to direct reporting under my department, removed from the restructuring that had occurred over the previous 11 months. And, I added, the announcement email for Project Meridian should be corrected. The record should reflect who did the work. My CEO looked at his roommate again. The silence lasted longer than was comfortable. Then he said, "That's fair." His roommate opened his mouth. I've known plenty of men like him, men who learned early that family proximity was a substitute for earned authority, and I recognize the moment when that foundation starts to crack. He looked at his uncle the way someone looks when they realize the backup plan they've been relying on has already decided not to show up. My CEO's voice was quiet. He said, "I signed that agreement. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't say what it says. And frankly, I'm not going to pretend I haven't been hearing things about how this year has gone." His roommate said, "This is a legal technicality being used to undermine a leadership transition. It's a performance clause," my CEO said. "It's supposed to be a technicality. That's the point." And apparently, Marcus was the only person paying close enough attention to know it existed. The meeting lasted 20 minutes total. At the end of it, my CEO asked his roommate to transition his operational responsibilities back to department-level leadership over the following 2 weeks. He didn't fire him that afternoon. He gave him a graceful ramp down, which was more than he deserved, and probably less than he expected. By the end of the following week, his roommate had accepted a vaguely titled senior advisory role that involved no direct reports and no client contact. And within 6 weeks of that, he'd quietly departed to pursue, as the exit announcement described it, a new entrepreneurial chapter. The organizational vitality architect's contract was not renewed. The purpose-driven performance framework was shelved. The contribution constellation was never mentioned again by anyone, as far as I know, and I genuinely hope it stays that way. What happened the day after the conference room meeting was the part that mattered most to me. I sent a department-wide message that went out at 6:45 a.m., before most people had arrived. I kept it short. I told them the bonus situation from the day before had been reviewed and reversed. I told them the distribution timeline. I told them the amounts would reflect the original criteria without adjustment. I told them it was because of their work, their patience, and their professionalism, and that I was proud to have my name attached to anything they were a part of. My senior architect replied within 4 minutes. She said, "I knew you had something in that briefcase." My lead analyst, the one whose name had been left off the press release, came into my office that morning and stood in the doorway for a moment without saying anything. Then she said, "Did you really go back and read the original employment agreement?" I told her I'd read every word of every document I'd ever signed, a habit I'd picked up in the Army. She nodded slowly. Then she said, "I'm going to start doing that." 3 months later, my CEO called me at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. He said he wanted me to look at something. An hour later, I was sitting across from the CEO of a mid-size federal IT firm based in Reston, who had been tracking our Meridian performance data. His company had complementary capabilities strong in cybersecurity architecture, lighter on systems integration. He'd been looking for a partner organization rather than an acquisition, and the one condition he'd put on the table was non-negotiable. He said, "We want this to be led by the people who actually built it. No transition management layer, no outside consultants brought in to manage the integration, just the technical leadership that delivered Meridian." My CEO looked at me across the table. "Your call?" he said. I thought about the previous 11 months. I thought about the culture workshops and the whiteboard photographs and the flow check-ins and the contribution constellations. I thought about my senior architect setting her coffee cup down in silence. I thought about the analyst whose name had been removed from her own work. Then I thought about the production floor, our operations center, the engineering teams running at full capacity, Meridian Phase 1 tracking 3 weeks ahead of schedule, the junior analysts who had grown a full professional tier in 14 months because someone had stayed out of their way and let them work. I said, "Let's do it." The partnership agreement was signed inside of 3 weeks. No drama, no restructuring announcement, no mandatory vision alignment sessions. Just 2 organizations that knew how to deliver federal work, combining the parts that made each of them better. 4 months after that, I received a LinkedIn notification. My former COO had launched a consulting practice focused on helping organizations navigate leadership transitions through human-centered operational philosophy. His company page had a logo that appeared to have been made with a free online tool and a tagline about unlocking organizational potential. He had listed Project Meridian under professional experience as a strategic initiative he had overseen. I looked at the page for about 30 seconds. Then I closed the laptop and walked back to the operations floor, where my senior architect was running a methodology briefing for the 6 new engineers we'd brought in from the partner firm. My lead analyst had been promoted to principal systems analyst 2 months prior. The 2 junior team members who'd looked at each other during the bonus announcement, the ones still paying off student loans, had both received retention packages that kept them well past any competing offer they might have fielded. Meridian Phase 1 had been delivered on time, under budget, and with a technical evaluation score that had prompted the DoD program office to reach out proactively about Phase 2 options. The clause is still in my employment agreement. My CEO never asked to remove it, and I never brought it up. It's just there, sitting quietly in Section 9, Subsection D, a 15-year-old provision that nobody thought would matter because nobody thought the numbers would ever get that high. They got that high because 47 people showed up every day and did the work. That's the part I want people to understand, not the legal technicality, not the clause language, not the conference room confrontation. The part that matters is that when someone spends a year trying to rewrite what excellence looks like, when someone replaces performance with philosophy and accountability with aesthetics and experience with credential, the work doesn't lie. The numbers don't adjust for buzzwords. The DoD doesn't award $23 million to a contribution constellation. They award it to people who know what they're doing and do it anyway, even when someone else is taking the credit. I didn't need a new title to fix what had been broken. I didn't need an announcement or a public correction or a dramatic exit. I just needed the authority to get back to the work and enough patience to wait until the right moment to ask for it. Sometimes the best response to being underestimated is simply to keep going, keep building, keep documenting, keep reading every word of everything you sign. And when the moment comes, and it will come, if the work is real, you'll already have the folder ready.
They say just forget. Move on like it's easy. But forgetting you feels like remembering someone I've never seen. I've been trying to erase you from the places in my mind, but the harder that I fight it, the more you're hard to leave behind. Every memory keeps slipping through the cracks I try to close, like a face I should remember, but somehow never know. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Every moment turns to fragments, every thought just fades to blue, like I'm searching for a feeling that still only leads to you. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. But now every empty moment still reminds me what is real. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. I'm freezing, I'm bleeding, slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile, every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here, maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, no, it's just my last defense. 'Cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay.